Hi there, I'm Kevin Benedict, Senior Vice President of Solution Strategy here at Regalix, and I'm excited to have as my guest Suhas Uliyar with Oracle. Suhas, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Kevin. It's great to be next to you sitting in person.
I know usually we're doing online kinds of recordings and interviews, so this time live from sunny, beautiful Bellevue, Washington.
Indeed.
Now, Suhas, you have a really cool job title here, Vice President of Bots, AI, and Mobile Product Management. Talk to me about that.
So over the last decade or so, Kevin, we've been really focused on mobile apps. And we're now seeing a great evolution in terms of conversational AI and chatbots being the front end to that. And for chatbots to really be of value, it really has to be powered by artificial intelligence, right? Being able to understand natural language, being able to understand what the data is in the background, and be able to have a smart conversation with the users, right? So when we look at sort of mobile apps and we look at conversational UI, there are a few things that make mobile and chatbots sort of come together. First is that when you look at conversational UI, it is really good for very quick back and forth with a chatbot, right? So, hey, what's my vacation balance? You got 14 days. I'd like to apply for leave. Sure, yes or no, right? But if I'm collecting a lot of structured data, or I want to view a lot of structured data, conversational UI is not probably the best experience for the user. So for example, if I have a form to fill,
or a spreadsheet,
or a process, right? If I have to follow a set of screens, right?
Yes.
And so there, a mobile UI is more appropriate. But the challenge really is that how do you provide the most delightful experience to the end user? So if I'm with a chatbot, I'm asking questions. And if I tell the user, you know, that's great, but you need to download my mobile app or go to my website to complete the transaction.
Right.
That sort of really breaks the context.
Yeah, you've jumped out of that conversation into this doesn't work, go try a different venue.
UI, right, exactly, right? And then it goes start again, like, what's your first name, last name, and you have the customer service, right?
Right.
So that's sort of where, you know, we have this concept that we built where the bot is smart enough to recognize that at this point in the flow, I need to surface up a mobile app, but it does that in context to the bot itself, and you know, it can surface up a web responsive app or now a progressive web app, PWA apps, and more importantly, have a connection between the two. So, for example, I can take context data from the chat conversation, pass it to my mobile app. The mobile app finishes the transaction, passes the ID back. So there's a full back and forth that's happening. So one is the convergence of experiences together, the blended experience that makes it really powerful.
Oh, got it.
So that's sort of where mobile comes into play.
Right.
The second thing, what we've also noticed is that everyone loves mobile devices now, right? Everyone has a mobile device. So regardless of what application you run for the chatbot, whether you want to use Slack or Microsoft Teams or Messenger or WeChat or WhatsApp, people tend to use the mobile device as your channel. So when you have a mobile device, guess what you have? You have a lot of sensors. So this becomes intelligent in the way you can collect a lot of information, of course, PIA involved, to be able to be smart about the way you engage as well, right? The third thing is, from an enterprise perspective, what we realized is customers don't want to use public channels to check on their paycheck, etc. Right? So there again, the mobile device is their personal device as well as their corporate device, and the apps is now extended with chat capabilities. So for all the three reasons, we're seeing the convergence of mobile, chatbots, and AI all coming together.
Oh wow!
And that's sort of how we looked at sort of how mobile transforms itself to the world of chatbots.
Oh yeah, I mean, on a mobile device, when you're driving a car or riding a bike or jogging or anything else, you don't have a lot of opportunity to be texting, or you shouldn't have. You shouldn't be, yes. And so that's why I can see that. That's why chat is so powerful. That's why AI, anything it can do to understand context and do shortcuts for you.
Exactly, and that's why voice is becoming more and more critical now, rather than type. Using speech and voice is becoming more and more critical in these interactions.
To me, that's so interesting because it's almost going back to the era of the phone.
Yes.
The big old phone.
We're actually talking to it now.
Yeah, that's too funny. Now, you and I have been in the IT high-tech field for many years. That's why we get our gray hairs.
Or no hair.
Or no hair. And but I know, we all know that this is not easy. Because if there's bad data, then none of this can work.
Correct.
So when you sit down with a company who's kind of interested in doing the leading edge kind of stuff, yet they have a lot of legacy environments, like where do you start with them? Like, do you say, first of all, we have to check this, 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 and this to see if it's even possible?
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
Yeah, so the two things you need for AI, right? You need heavy compute and you need a lot of good data. Right?
A lot of good data. That's the problem.
That's the thing, and the good being the underlying thing, right? So the algorithms are only good as the data you supply, right? And so AI certainly is probably among the top 2 or 3 strategies in every boardroom you go to. And I think the first step of getting to AI with chatbots is less risky with high returns.
Okay.
And here's why. Because the way we and a lot of our competitors have designed chatbots is starting with the assumption that you don't have the data, right? So what kind of data do we need for chatbots? So the first aspect of chatbots is natural language understanding. So when I say something like, "What's my balance?" or send money to Kevin from my savings account, right? It needs to understand what that means. Every day, right? Right. So it needs to understand what does that mean, and then how do I take action on that, right? So the chatbot platforms, what we've done is we're able to provide some seed data, and that seed data is something that business can provide. It does not require developers, it does not require technical people to do that. So you can just start by defining what we call some intents, and you define some base data with some sample data, 8 to 9 different ways on how you ask what balances, or how do you check your accounts, your opportunities, and the model is trained from there. And based on usage, as you increase the data set, it automatically continues to learn. So that's where deep neural nets come in and continues to learn as the system is used more, and there are more different ways of asking the same question. Got it. Chatbots provide a really good way for you to sort of go there, right? Now, what we're also doing at the same time is buying ourselves time to sort of clean up the data, right? And we're doing that in one of multiple ways. So in the world of chatbots as well, a lot of companies have IVR logs. People have done customer service for many years, right? So they have logged, the IVR calls, or perhaps some of the more modern companies have, chat logs, right? Now that we've sort of started from this step number 1, we're able to what we call analyze our transcripts. So we have this AI engine that goes in, and it's got much more deeper textual understanding of this, of sort of the
likelihood that when they ask this question, here's what they're looking
for, right?
Okay.
Now, since we've started with adding some sample data, the model's been created.
Okay.
Now that model can be applied to larger forms of text, even though that's not well defined, not well structured, and all over the place. So, for example, when humans talk to humans, it tends to be, the NFL season has started last week or this week. Did you see Sam Darnold in the Jets? And wow, he played great. And look at what happened to Gruden's game yesterday. So there's a lot of noise there. That's just a small talk, as we call it, right? So now the model is able to sort of say, okay, this small talk is not necessarily important for me to understand what the user is asking, and is able to remove that noise because we've already got the model set. So now we're able to help clean up some of this data. Right, so that is sort of how we're taking that one step further in sort of leveraging enterprise data that they already have.
So you must identify processes where you can get pretty close to defining what somebody needs, what are normal, typical, desirable results.
Correct.
So you can kind of plug that along.
Inference from that, right?
Okay.
Now there is another really interesting area in AI coming up called transfer learning.
Okay.
Now, transfer learning was something that came from a perspective of, if you don't have enough data, or the data is not clean, how do you make sense of the data, right? So the idea is if you've already got good models, right? So you can get good data. For example, you can look at the IMDb data or Wiki data, or now Google, as you know, has opened up a lot of the data that you can use for training your models. Now you can actually start your engines, your models, and train those on certain types of data, and you can transfer that learning over to other data sets that are not quite the best, or not as expansive as the data model you've trained on. Okay. So it's called the mode called transfer learning. So transfer learning is another mechanism by which enterprises can get advantage of that, and we're beginning to apply that across domains. As you know, Oracle's across every single application domain, and so we're trying to sort of apply the learnings from one domain across to another domain, whether it's horizontal processes or vertical processes.
Got it. So let's just take a step back here and focus on some of the things that Suhas said here. Good data is essential for any of this. Because without good data, you can't run algorithms, you can't know what you're supposed to do, you can't respond correctly.
Right.
So you're not getting desirable results. So then you can't be using machine learning on any of that because it was all messed up from the beginning.
Correct. So, and also a lot of data.
Yeah, a lot of data. So the data has to mean the same thing. All those chunks of data has to be normalized. So there's a lot of work that has to be done.
Correct.
And for a lot of companies, that's monumental, that task, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
So that's why you're suggesting maybe start with some of these models and build out from there.
Correct.
Very interesting here. So where do you tell companies to look for kind of their first initial proof of concepts?
So especially with the world of chatbots, right, we are looking at, again, depending upon their pain points. So customer service is a great use case, right? So every company that's dealing with end customers have a pretty large customer service organization, whether that's internal or external. For instance, we're working with a few financial organizations that have internal IT help desks, and they are pretty massive. And the two classic problems that we always hear about is, the typical wait times. Hey, you're number 5 in the queue, you're number 10 in the queue. And the second one is not having memory of what you previously asked about. So because Kevin calls in, it's like, oh, okay, hi Kevin, how can I help you? Oh, well, you had my SR number 54321. Oh, okay, let me look it up. Instead of, hey Kevin, here's the status of what you asked for or what's going on, right? So customer service, whether it's internal or external, is really low hanging fruit, right? And so that is sort of where we usually recommend to look at, because that not only that is a great way to bring in this technology, understand how AI works, but also save the company money as we go along. So it's not just a proof of concept that someone's pet project. It is actually a deliverable that delivers ROI for you, right?
Yeah, no problem. I think I've always wondered why a digital assistant couldn't just survey the customer immediately. Like they have an API and they agree and they opt into an API. So they call in and say, I have a problem. The digital assistant goes in, scans everything, comes back with recommendations.
Absolutely.
And it's right there on the screen, and maybe a human still walks them through it. But a digital assistant's already scanned all the data and has recommendations already.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's sort of where we see the world moving to, right? Which is today we see a lot of chatbots, right? Yeah. And if we look at the journey of where this is going, it was interesting. A year and a half ago, I was really excited about chatbots, and spoke, and the next best thing since sliced bread, and now chatbots like, oh, okay, it's there, it's gone. It's been there, done it, kind of thing.
Because now it's digital assistants.
It's digital assistant.
Why don't you let's distinguish the difference between chatbots and digital assistants for everyone out there?
Sure. So it's today in the industry it's used synonymously, right? But I have a very particular difference between those two, right?
Okay.
So chatbots for most part are user-initiated, single interactions, right? So I call that a skill or a bot. So I have a bot for my sales organization, and I ask a question about, show me my account, show me my opportunities, and I interact with that. So it's typically sort of user-initiated. And the core technology that was exciting 2 years ago about that was bringing AI in to understand the users, understanding natural language, understanding things like sentiment analysis,
all very important
or very core components, right?
Yeah.
And that was very critical. But frankly, it wasn't smart, right? It wasn't intelligent from a perspective of, let's say, Kevin, you're in sales and you're the sales VP. And at the end of every quarter, you're looking at your reports.
Yeah.
Do I really need to say every quarter to look at my reports? Why can't the bot be smart enough to say, hey, it's end of quarter, Kevin needs this, I'm just going to pass it on to him.
Yeah.
So it becomes bot initiated, right? So that's sort of one, right? The second thing is, if you look at an enterprise, now, when the bots came on, and like very similar to the mobile world, right? When mobile apps came out, we had apps for consumers to download from the app store, right? Whether that was B2C, as we call it, right? And in similar way, right, the first generation of all the chatbots were really sort of B2C bots or customer service bots, but still B2C bots.
Right.
But when you look at an enterprise, like you look at Oracle, right? We have every part of the enterprise app story, right? We have sales, marketing, we have customer service, we have HCM, we have recruiting, we have ERP, we have e-commerce. We have all these backend systems.
Right.
We have hundreds of bots, right?
And they're integrated.
They're all integrated, but as a user, I don't know which bot to ask. What if I say, hey, what's the status of my report? Which report is that? My expense report, my approval report, my vacation report? Which report do you want my status for, right? So this is where the digital assistant becomes, sort of, think about it as the master brain that brings all these bots or the skills together. So I'm not talking to any specific bot or skill. I'm just talking to the digital assistant and saying, hey, what's the status of my expense report, or what's the status of my report? And it will know to ask you, if you're, let's say you were asking about your opportunities and you're doing something with sales, and you say, show me my report, it will understand the context that you're talking about sales, so I'll get you my sales report. If you are not in that context, it'll say, well, you could be asking about your sales report or your expense report. Which one would you like to see? Or for example, if you're filing an expense report and says, hey, what is the status of my previous reports? It knows you're asking about your expense report, right? So the digital assistant is now getting more smarter. It is beginning to understand you. Not different to your personal admin. Your admin knows who you are, knows your preferences, and is able to take action on your behalf. In the same way, the bot is moving to the world of digital assistant, where not only does it understand who you are, what you do, your preferences, at the same time, it's also looking for events that are happening around your enterprise. So for example, you send me an email in the middle of the night and say, hey, I'm going to be in Seattle, so ask if you want to get together. I don't know. You send me an email while I'm sleeping, but the bot does, or the digital assistant does. It's able to sort of say, oh yeah, my calendar is free. Let me respond to Kevin and say, Suhas is available between 2 and 3. Right? And take action based on that, right? So this is again where the mobile device becomes very critical, because it understands your behaviors, your traits based on all the sensors you have.
Yes, absolutely.
And is able to look at events that are happening around you. And this is sort of where it's, for me, I'm having a lot of fun with the digital assistant, because now I have data. I have all the Oracle SaaS data that I can learn from and be able to, and provide recommendations, take action based on that. I can do reasoning based on that.
Okay, I'm going to put you on the spot.
Yes.
You bring in a junior sales guy. You want a digital assistant that's like the expert in sales.
Yes.
This digital expert knows how to prioritize your time.
Yep.
Which accounts would be best to go after.
Yep.
Which person in the account would be the ideal person to talk to.
Right.
What the likely dollar size is based upon the size. Walk me through how a digital assistant might someday make you more effective in
someday
sales.
Come to Open World and we'll show you some of this.
Okay.
So let's take a step back, right? What is the number one issue between sales and marketing?
They blame each other.
Exactly. Why? Because sales say you haven't given me good leads.
Yeah.
And marketing says you don't do anything with the leads I give you.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So let's play this out with the digital assistant, right? So let's say the leads come into the play. Even before the sales guy asked the question, imagine a day where the digital assistant told you, hey, Kevin, today you have a meeting with this customer at this time. This is the topic. This is what they're interested in. This is the opportunity size. Go close the deal.
Yeah.
That's our ultimate goal.
Oh,
so let's
man.
walk back and see how that happens, right?
Yes.
So first I've got the leads. right? What does a lead have at the most? It has the name of the company, the contact, and some information about what they're interested in.
Right.
So now I can look at the first two, the name of the company, say if it's real, number one.
Yeah.
If it's real, how are they doing, right?
Yeah.
Is the stock up, stock down? Is this company good? Are they an Oracle-friendly customer? Have they bought anything from us the last?
Oh, that's important.
Everything is important. Have they bought from us when was the last time they made a purchase?
Yeah.
How much footprint of Oracle do we have?
What kind of customer issues have they had, or service issues?
Exactly, right? So that's beginning with that, right? So now that you've established they're an existing customer, what are the issues? Are they happy? Have they had downtime? All that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
Now you look at the contact. You go to LinkedIn and find out very easily, is that a janitor in the company or is he actually a decision maker in the company?
Yeah.
Has he bought, has he bought from us before? Right?
Has he? What would be interesting is, has he been on any previous email strings?
Bingo, right? Has he joined any of our WebExes or any seminars? Has he come to Open World before? Right?
Yeah.
Whatever contacts we've had, right?
Yeah.
So once you establish that, now you know that this is something real. Now let's look at sort of what are they asking about?
Yeah.
And okay, they want to learn more about mobile or chatbots, right? So now I've qualified this. I can now start by saying, hey, Mr. Customer, I understand you were interested in chatbots. Here's some videos. What's interesting, what I found out, Kevin, I don't know, when you're in marketing, you know this better than I do, but people don't want to get a phone call and say, let me tell you about this product. People want to learn at their own time, right? And so things like media, YouTube, all that are awesome. And I don't know if it's you or if it's me or people are changing, but I can't read long notes anymore. It has to be very short and precise.
That's because our eyes are
maybe we're just getting older.
Our eyesight is getting faded.
Right. But I don't mind watching a video, right? Yeah. A quick introduction of that, and then learning from that, right?
Oh, yeah.
So being able to provide them the most important necessary information so they can learn about this at their own pace. And the other thing that we would train the digital assistant is look for use cases that are similar to that have references, so people always buy from people. Mm-hmm. Hey, for example, this customer was in the same boat, they asked the same thing, look what they're doing with this, right? So you can start providing all that information up front. You have zero resource cost.
And that all requires research. So if you can have a search functionality built into your digital assistant who knows what kind of information, knows how to prioritize the information, knows how to analyze the information, so it all can come back in the form of like scores on a dashboard.
Exactly right.
That says, here's who to go after because of the 5 companies you're prospecting right now.
Right.
Here's the top 2 you should go after today.
Right.
Because of these reasons.
Right. So the technology behind this is called semantic parsing with graphs.
Say that again.
Semantic parsing with memory graphs. So graphs has become a real key part. And this is how Google again, were the ones who really pushed this whole concept of graphs. And to be able to sort of create relationships where they don't exist, right? So for example, if you go on to Google now and you type in Tom Cruise, it not only gives you information of Tom Cruise, but all related information of Tom Cruise. Yeah. How many girlfriends he had, wives he had, movies he's made, all the kind of stuff, how much money he's made, where does he live, where is he going, every piece of that information, that comes from the graph. Right? We're doing something similar for the enterprise. This is how we're able to do this parsing and sort of say, for example, this customer trying to buy this is also interested in this, is also interested in that. So that is how those things get parsed, right? So that is sort of, again, a mechanism by which AI becomes much more powerful.
Got it. Right. So if I put on my hat from a technology standpoint, I say I want to get all the data I can off an individual because the more data I have, the better data. If it's good data, then I can do all kinds of cool technological things. Exactly. But then this whole issue of GDPR and privacy and transparency and all this kind of stuff comes up.
Correct.
Which is absolutely important. I'm just being silly here, but that does make you have to stop and rethink your strategy.
It does and it doesn't. So again, when we look at, and we're not really going after individual information here, right? We're trying to sort of infer what may be best for you based on other use cases.
So almost like pattern recognition.
Exactly, right? Okay. That's sort of where the semantic processing comes in, right? Okay. It's like, if I am doing this is what I'm likely to go and do, right? But when you talk about GDPR or PIA or PIA, right? PIA rather, right? we live in this false world that our information is not out there, right? How many times? I mean, let me ask you. How many times have you said, "No, I'm not going to use this out with Google Maps"? The first thing that comes up, you don't even read that whole thing. You just say, "Yes, I'm going to share my information."
Yes.
If it's compelling enough, you will say yes to your information.
Yeah.
GDPR and PII says, "I just can't use your information without you accepting it, without you knowing it."
Yes.
So that's the simplest answer, because if you add value, pretty much, I mean, if you look at the younger generation, they don't care that I know everything about you, right? It's just people like us that think that we live in this illusion of security, right?
Yes.
Our information is already out there. But to your point, right? So we don't actually need customer information, right? It's all cleaned out. It's more about those patterns on how people buy, what they're kind of doing, that gives you that kind of relationships that you can use.
Right, so we just need an ID. We don't even have to know a name, right? We
Absolutely
just
not.
have an ID and say that ID likes to canoe, they like to fish, they like to camp, they live in the mountains, they spend this kind of money.
That persona.
Yeah, this persona that goes along with that number likes this. So when I see that person searching for a new boat, I know to present new boat stuff.
Exactly right.
We don't have to know who the person is.
Exactly right.
Okay,
exactly
got it. It's just seeing a pattern.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. So back to our sales use case, right? Now that I've sort of given you the information, I get back to you after a few days and say, "Hey, Kevin, I sent you that information. Would you like me to follow up?" And no point I've called him, I also pick the right time where I know he could be free, right? I'm not intruding, right? And the next thing he says, "Yeah, I'll be interested. What time would you like me to call you?" Certain time. Well, the sales guy knows that he has a qualified response. And this is the level of where things are going to go.
That is fascinating. Now, when I think about digital assistants, I think about how many different systems all have to be set up to integrate together, or this doesn't work. You know, if the digital assistant can only see your calendar, but it can't see a group calendar, it can't see anything further, then it's really limited in its value.
Absolutely.
So there's got to be a lot of data sharing.
And this is why it's so exciting for me. Right?
Okay.
If I was in any other company, I would be still excited, but not as much as I'm at Oracle. The simple reason is, again, I go back to Oracle has the breadth of all the applications. So they're all integrated. We have a platform that allows us to integrate with all of this, get me the relevant data. So I can, and integrating to whether it's Outlook or Gmail or that, it's pretty straightforward, right? So this is the beauty of what is exciting for us in the digital assistant world, right? One is I have access to domain knowledge, whether that's domains as horizontal ERP, CRM, procurement, etc., or verticals, because Oracle's in telco and finance and all that. So I can look at it from two vectors, plus, and they're all integrated, plus the fact that I can have open access to Google or LinkedIn or Indeed or whatever else is out there, and I can bring this all in together to create that, right? And we have all the technology to make that all happen. Now all it needs is the digital platform on top of it, or the digital assistant platform, to be able to reason with this.
And that gives you a job.
That gives me a job, exactly. That gives me the wonderful opportunity to sort of make sense of all this chaos.
That's brilliant.
That's the fun part.
Suhas, I want to thank you so much for sharing again and for helping educate and give us insightful vision, or show us the future by sharing your insight and your experience. So I want to thank you so much, and I want to thank all of you guys out there too for joining us today, and on a sunny day here in Bellevue, Washington.
Great, thank you, Kevin.
Thanks, Suhas.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.